Welcome to jessieathome.com. This video is one in the series that shows you how to make these 3 picot flowers in this little picot leaf. On this video, we're actually going to be working on the large picot flower. Okay, this little guy right here. Your not so little guy, as it may be. So we'll put him up here. And let's get to work. We're going to start off with a slip knot. Make sure you leave yourself a tail that's big enough that you can actually work with. Okay, and start off with a slip knot and chain 4, join with a slip stitch to form a loop. 2, 3, 4, join with a slip stitch to form a loop. All right, now we need to make 10 half double crochet into this loop. In place of the first half a double crochet, we're actually just going to chain 2, and that does count as our first half double crochet. So that's 1. Now we need to get to 10. And while I'm doing this, I'm actually working over top of my cut end of my yarn so that it's going to give me a way to tighten up my loop later. So we have 1. The chain 2 counted as 1, and then here's a half double crochet makes 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now we're going to slip stitch around together, and you can always count the loops to make sure that you really did make it to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good job, we did it. Okay, so now it is time to make the petals, and to do that we're going to start off with a chain 2, and then we're going to do a double crochet into the same stitch, and a treble crochet into the same stitch. Treble crochets are sometimes also called triple crochets, either one is the same. Then we're going to make a picot, which is chaining 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you slip stitch into the first chain that you made. That makes a little picot. Now we're going to treble crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the same stitch, and chain 2. Now slip stitch into the next stitch. Slip stitch into the same stitch. Look at that. Have the directions right in front of me. Helps if I read them. Okay, and make sure your ball of yarn is not running all over the table and causing chaos. Oh, see? Chaos. All right, so now I'm going to show you another petal here. We're going to chain 2, double crochet into the next stitch, treble crochet into the same stitch, picot, which is chain 3, 1, 2, 3, oh my goodness, 3, slip stitch into the first of the 3, treble crochet into the next stitch, double crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, and slip stitch into the same stitch. Okay, we've now completed 4 petals. We have 1 more petal to go. Chain 2, double crochet into the next stitch, treble crochet into the same stitch, chain 3, or picot, which is chaining 3, and then slip stitch into that first chain. That makes your little picot. Treble into the next stitch, double crochet into the same stitch, chain 2, and slip stitch into that same stitch. Okay, that's the end of our flower. So we're going to clip our yarn, pull the thread through, thread up that yarn end onto a needle. Maybe. Come on, behave. Thank you. Turn this little guy over. Okay, and see that big opening we have? We're going to use our beginning tail that we crocheted over. When we put all these stitches in, we went over top of this yarn. That means it's encased inside all of this, and all we have to do is pull it to tighten things up. It's okay if it doesn't close all the way. What I'm going to show you next will show you how to close it the rest of the way if you want to. If you're putting some sort of embellishment on the center of your flower, like a button or something, it's not really a big deal that it's not closed all the way. Okay, but in order to weave in our ends, we're now going to take our last end and just kind of thread through some of the stitches and get it to the point where it's coming out of the same spot as our starting end comes out. Okay, just pull that through. Now let's thread the starting end onto the same needle as our finishing end. Try to get them evened up and try to get the ends at the same length because it just makes life easier. Okay. Now we're going to continue. You see our yarn is going around clockwise. We're going to continue around clockwise through a few more stitches. Give it a little tug. If you find that you ended up tugging your end a little too much, you can always pull it back out from the leaf if you're tightening that leaf a little bit much. Now we're going to actually go the other direction. Right now we were going clockwise around. We're going to turn around and go back around counterclockwise. But first, you see this is where the yarn is coming out. We want to go forward about 1 stitch before we turn and go the other direction so that we're actually locking those stitches in place. If we put our needle back in the same place it came out, we would just be pulling all of our yarn out, and that would be a bummer. So now we're going to keep on going counterclockwise until we've gone all the way around the circle. And you'll see why we want to go all the way around in a moment. We've gone all the way around the circle. I usually do that in about 3 chunks. Now what you can do, if you want your circle, your center to be even tighter, you can give it a pull, and that'll pull it tighter again. Okay, if you don't want it tighter, you don't have to, but if you want it tighter, that's a great way to give it an extra tightening. Now we want to go back the other direction just one more time, and again, you want to catch either a stitch or 2 behind where you came out, or even a stitch or 2 in front of where you came out, as long as you don't go back in where you came out, or else you'll just be undoing everything you've just done. Okay, and you just need to do 1 little chunk at this point. You don't need to go all the way around again. Clip your thread, clip your yarn, turn your little guy over, and yeah, you know, sometimes I get that little bump if I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing. But I always put little embellishments on here, or you can put a smaller flower on top of the larger flower, or a button, or whatever. So there you have it.